So I'm super grateful that you even came on the show.
No, for sure.
I'm one of those guys, when I reach out to people, I still feel like a lot of angst because I'm usually just really introverted.
Yeah.
So just reaching out to people is difficult. It's super difficult for me. But I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like struggle in a lot of ways, because they don't know how to really have those conversations.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't know how to have a conversation, but it's the reaching out and asking for help.
Yeah.
In that, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm asking you for help.
No, for sure.
But yeah, so Mr. Pat, my first time, yeah, Mr. Pat, call everybody. I gotta have the Mr. and Mrs. there. My first time really interacting with you was through One City.
Right.
Cool church in Nashville. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. One City. That is the plug right there.
That is, man.
Yeah.
McGavick High School, pull up Sundays.
All that. And then I also got a chance to play basketball with you too. And you're nice. You're nice.
I'm all right,
I'll go ahead and give you that.
I mean, I'm all right.
But here recently, within the last few weeks, you had you had the opportunity to do a speaking session. I call them speaking engagements. And I promise you, I've only been to so many speaking engagements. And one of the most impactful speaking engagements that I've ever had was from you.
Wow.
And yeah. And I'm not saying that because you were just, trying to be controversial or trying to, say a bunch of sweet words or anything like that. But I think the thing that I appreciate the most is that you was just real.
Yeah.
And not to make this about race or anything like that, but I find that people that look like me have a hard time having conversations about your topic, let me say that.
Yeah.
Because it's uncomfortable.
Facts.
And I think a lot of us don't necessarily come from a place where finances is something that we talk about. Mm-hmm. So you gave your conference, right? And the primary topic was on finances. The title was Check Yourself.
Yeah, man.
Check yourself.
Yeah, man.
And there was this line that you said in there. You said, there's a lot of answered prayers in your bank statement.
For sure.
Me and my wife, we both looked at each other. And I promise you, it was like a reality check. And we're not necessarily bad with money or anything like that. I think we're pretty solid, because we follow a lot of, different people's advice, and her parents are pretty good with money, and then we know some people who are good with money. So we got a lot of advice floating around. But one thing that we have not done often was look into our bank statements. We look at them casually, and we both kind of have an understanding of it, but the intentionality, I think, behind setting aside time and actually looking to see what you're spending on, what the goal is and what you can cut, in order to just really have your finances in check.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we need to do more often. So I have a crap ton of questions for you.
Man, go for
but I want to just kind of start at the beginning for a second because, like I said, I don't know you very well.
Right.
I've been around you a little bit. But I'm interested in how you came across finance as, something that you would, really just dive into.
That's a really good question, actually. So originally, finances was never in my radar. I didn't go to college for finances. I don't have a degree in finances, although I'm quadruple licensed now in the financial industry. But honestly, it just kind of happened randomly, right? So when I was in college, my wife graduated from the University of South Alabama. Go Jags. South in your mouth, balls in your drawers. You got to put that in. That's for all my South listeners. Y'all get it.
What?
Do I need to say it again, or you good?
No, don't.
Right.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
But no, so when my wife was graduating, man, I ran into this guy that I played intramural flag football against. And he was a finance major, and he was already in the industry. And he was looking to build his agency. And he just said, hey, man, I think you would be great. I know the type of player you are because I've been playing against you, for the last 4 or 5 years. I've seen your dedication to your fitness. I've seen you go from one size to another size. He was like, yo, I think you would be perfect for my agency. And I kind of just blew it off because, again, finances. Now, he never mentioned what it was per se, but I was so hell-bent on being where I was at the time, right? Management position at Best Buy. I said, this is going to be the move for me. Yeah. So I ended up like dodging them for about 6 months. And then when I couldn't take it anymore, as far as like my job, they started to tell on themselves. And I would always ask God, like, hey, what do you see me doing? I even went through a spell of like texting my friends, like, hey, you guys know me the best. Like, if you had to put one career on me, like, what would it be? You know what I'm saying? Like, just based off how you know me, how long you've been knowing me, what would it be? People always say, speaking or coaching or motivational speaking or something to that nature. So even then I was still kind of lost. So I ended up reaching back out to the guy that I bumped into, and he gave me the full breakdown of what his agency did and what they do. And how I can be licensed in the industry. I didn't have to come from a background. I get trained from the ground up. And it wasn't even per se finances that kind of kept me around. It was the lack of knowledge that I had going into the meeting. So this is what I told myself. I said, man, if I didn't know any of this stuff, I know for sure, for a fact even, that nobody around me knows it. Right? And so if they would have known it, then that means I would know it. If they, rock with me enough for them to tell me, right?
No,
but
for sure.
That's the first thing I thought about. And so from then I was like, hey, this is something that people need to know. Because I know in our communities is finances and money and how to, be good stewards of money and, different stuff when it comes to money is not widely taught to us. Now it's widely available to us now, but it's not like actually taught to us on what to do, how to do it, to become, better managers of money.
For sure. Hey, I'm gonna move this mic a little bit.
Yep. All right, bet.
Yeah.
I can scoot up too.
Not yeah, whatever's comfortable.
Yep.
So from there, like, what did that prompt you to kind of get into? Like, how did you come to the place that you're in right now?
So currently, my wife and I own our own agency now. So just kind of learning the ropes in the beginning, with aspirations to opening up our own office and agency. So that's what kind of led us to what we do now. But my passion is to teach people, right? That was something that I ran from, but it was something that also came natural to me. So I was always the guy that always wanted to, pour into people from my experiences and say, hey, you can do things differently or whatever the case may be. So me taking a liking to the business and to the industry was a way for me to be able to do that, right? Because I know that this is an area where the majority of people struggle, and especially the majority of people that look like us. So
that's interesting. I know just growing up for me, I think finances was not something that I, walked away from my house with. I come from a family where we live paycheck to paycheck. So planning for what your life is going to be like is not necessarily on the forefront as it pertains to, finances and saving money and investing money. It was more so like everything's really fast paced.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in how you realize that money is more than just spending.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where a lot of us are. We're in a place where when we get money, we automatically, before we get money, we're thinking about how we're going to spend it.
Exactly.
Rather than, my wife would say, and her grandfather taught her, spend some or save some, spend some, and give some.
Yeah. That's real too.
But I didn't know nothing about that.
That's so real. That's a bar too, by the way.
Yeah. But how do you think that money is more complicated than just just spending it?
I think it's because of how we're conditioned to look at money, right? And so a lot of us grow up in a survival environment. So when we're growing up in a survival environment, it's like, hey, what we have is all we can use, or, to be able to do whatever it is that we need. That's why we kind of live paycheck to paycheck, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of times too, the way that we look at money makes it seem as though we have this sense of entitlement for the work that we put in to make the money. So it's like, hey, we deserve to do all these different things and not actually plan for what's to come, right? So we always had a spend first mentality because it's out of survival, right? For us to, hey, I got to make sure I got to get this, I got to make sure I got to get that, instead of, like your wife's grandfather said, save some, spend some, give some, which is really what we should be doing. But I think we're conditioned to spend first. We're not giving, and we don't save. So what does that leave you with?
Right.
More spending.
Right. Spend more.
Right.
Spend it because we got to live. You know?
Man.
That's what I've heard. We got to make a living, or we got to live too. And I'm like, I get it. I understand it. But, man, and it's just, I'm coming from a really humble place, you know. So I was reading a book. It was the Booker T. Washington autobiography. And one of the things that he noticed when he, first kind of got out of slavery, for the small bit of time that he was in slavery, and, he kind of did a lot of things to try to build up the black community, by creating or being a part of the Tuskegee Institute. And as he was going through rural Alabama, and he was kind of looking at the predicament of a lot of, the black people. And it just so happens you lived in Alabama for a little bit.
No, facts.
He noticed that a lot of these ex-slaves, when he would go into their houses, he would see that they had these giant organs, like piano organs. And he was like, but you don't even have forks to eat on. Why do you have this huge symbol of wealth without having, some of the basic essentials? And I think that mentality, is an interesting mentality that has kind of, it's not going away, So, I'm interested to hear, like, for someone from a financial, kind of background, unlike myself, why do you think that, that mentality kind of persists, that we should have this?
Show wealth and not really have wealth?
Yeah.
Perception. Because of how we've looked so long. We've always, and this may sound bad, but to the eyes of our counterparts, we've always, in our realization, in our perspective, we've always feel like we've been looked at as the underdog, right? So a lot of times the underdog is going to try to do something, extra to make themselves not look like the underdog. And so I think that we fall victim to that, especially when it comes to money, because for one, we don't have a lot of confidence in money, right? We don't know that we know that we don't get the most money compared to our counterparts. So when we do get money, then we have to use it to spend it on something that we feel as though symbolizes what we are worth, instead of actually being worth.
With that, you mentioned in your when you were speaking at one city, you mentioned this story about you had $10,000 worth of.
Absolutely.
Man.
Sad.
I felt.
You was in the front too. I seen you. I seen you. I was looking at you.
I felt it so bad. I was like, dang.
Yeah.
Do you feel? Could you tell a little bit about that?
No, for sure. So, I'm not a sneakerhead. All right, so I'm not gonna claim that, but I do love and appreciate shoes. Right. So I went on a run. From 2011 to about 2000 and I would say 19 because it happened in 2018. So I just wanted to feel a little better about myself after it happened. But
That's all good.
from 2011 to 2019, I went on a run, right? And I'm talking about I'm going crazy with shoes. And that was a good time frame too. Right? And I think what ended up happening was in 2010, the Cool Grades dropped. 2010. That was a Christmas J's that year, I believe. 2010, Christmas J's dropped, and I couldn't get them. And I'm fresh in college, so I'm like, yo, like I can't be in college and like people not think that I'm not him. I'm not the underdog, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not the underdog, so guess what I do? Now I'm going crazy on shoes now. Because also, Pastor Hollis hit on this on that Wednesday boost after services. Actually, you actually are trying to compensate from something that you hadn't healed from, right? Because coming from where I come from, I never was the kid that had the best pair of shoes, right? We couldn't afford to get the J's. We couldn't afford to get the new Nikes, right? And so going through life as a kid and comparing yourself to all the other kids, you kind of start growing up with that, right? And so when you do get a chance to actually do it, you go crazy. But from 2011, 2018, I went on a run. I'm going crazy. I think 2014 probably was my best year. Like, for real.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It just sounds, it's so weird to hear you talk about it like this because that was my best year. Like,
no, like, if I'm playing basketball, bro, I probably went 30, 10, and 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, I went crazy in 2014. And back then, that's when phones were, like, super hot. So I had all the phone. Either way.
Things expensive.
Fast forward to, exactly. And I had a shoe plug, too. So that was really crazy. That's why, we was able to go the way that we went. But anyways, 2018 came, and my wife was graduating. So a month before she graduated in November 2018, I reffed basketball. So I wasn't about to go to pick up my check for the games that I had ref before. So I was at the house playing COD, just chilling out, right? And so something told me, just go get the checks because you're going to need the checks anyway. So just go get the checks. So I left. I literally leave the house. I'm not gone for more than 30 minutes. I come back to the house. My book bag, where I put my Nike book bag, where I keep my checks, I can't find it when I walk in the house. But I normally keep it on the couch because, obviously I'm moving and grooving. I, ref games out throughout the week. So I can't find it. So I go upstairs, can't find it. Come downstairs, can't find it. I go back upstairs, can't find it. Guess what I do? Go back downstairs. I finally look up. The TV is gone.
Oh, man.
The Xbox is gone.
Dang.
I said, somebody done got us. I look at the back door. The back door is busted open.
Man.
I go upstairs. Mind you now, like in the midst of me going back and forth upstairs, I see that the closet door was open. But I'm thinking, maybe I just didn't close it. So after I realized that somebody actually broke into the house, I opened the closet door. When I looked in there the first time, like my shoe boxes wasn't as full, but I didn't notice it because my focus was on the book bag.
Yeah. So
when I go back, I look and the boxes, it's not as many boxes. So it's a bunch of boxes gone. So I said, bro, they just stole all of my shoes. Now I still got some left. I guess in that window they couldn't get everything. So I filed a claim, and when I filed the claim, you got to get, you got to come up with it, basically like an inventory list of what all was taken and lost, and the receipts, right? And so I take pictures of my shoes. I got pictures, outfits in my shoes, all the different stuff. So I'm going through and I'm looking at all the heat that's gone. $10,000
Mm.
worth of shoes
That's tough.
gone
That's
out
a
the
lot of
door.
money.
$10,000. And so I know we're talking about money, right? I'm going to say this real quick because I was going to say this on stage, but it actually slipped my mind. $10,000 worth of shoes, and this is no solicitation for you to buy any Nike stock or anything like that. But $10,000 worth of shoes, that's probably on average $100, $200, $300 a month for that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have just put that money
Mm.
into Nike alone,
Mm.
I could buy 4 pair of those shoes back, of all of them.
Mm.
4 pair. The power of not knowing.
And I think that's, man, dude. First of all, I had a stint like that too, where I just kind of was going crazy.
Yeah.
Because I definitely didn't have. Once I had a little job at White Castle.
Yeah.
When my sophomore year up to my senior year, and I was like, hey, I ain't wearing flip flops to school. I ain't wearing no flip flops no more.
On.
And I went crazy. I would always catch deals at like City Gear, and I had a weird size at the time, like 10 and a half. So nobody wore a 10 and a half at the time, and
Steal.
I could get them for knockdown, crazy prices. But I noticed that a lot of the stuff that I bought, a lot of stuff that I paid money to. I invested in so many different pairs of shoes and clothes, but a lot of that stuff was really tied to my self-esteem.
Yeah.
Did you feel like a loss in your self-esteem when you lost that $10,000?
I would say at that point, no. I think at that point in my life, I had already kind of calmed down on shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it was more frustrating because I felt like all that I accumulated over that time frame is just now gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what made it even worse is 7 months after that, I got into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So that brought up like more pain because
you understand.
Like you literally just let $10,000 go down the drain, and it had nothing to do with you, obviously, right? Because somebody else. And to this day, I'm not even really mad at whoever took the shoes. Maybe they needed them more than me. Hopefully, they paid for a good Christmas for them. Whatever, right? But just the simple fact of $10,000 over that span from 2011 to 2018. What could I have done with that money?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think about the average person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the average person starts the workforce at 16. Let's give them from 20 years old to 30 years old. It's a 10-year run. Average income is about 38,000, right? Over a 10-year span, you would touch at least $300,000.
Man.
Yeah. So from 20 to 30, and this is for anybody that's listening, just think about how long you've been working. Calculate your run and how much you've been making a year. And then how much you've touched. Can you look at what you got going on right now and say, I at least saved 10% of it?
No. And I find myself I used to listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey, and I think one of his big things was make sure you have that security fund, like $2,000, and it turned out that the majority of people, it doesn't matter how much money you make, could not pull out $2,000 from a savings account.
Still can't.
Right.
68%.
Oh, dang. Okay, so you got the numbers. I don't got the numbers. I just know I heard that. But, I think financial issues are more than just vulnerability for certain groups. I hear a lot about just, the income gap. And I know it's real. I know it's a real
No,
thing.
actually, it is.
And it's like we're coming from a position of being here, you know, and this was recent, you know, this wasn't so long ago that, you know, it's like, oh, it should be here by now. No, you know, it's something that, of course, is going to take some time. We see the gap.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I feel like we focus a little bit too much on the gap and not enough on
How to close it.
not enough on how to close it on our own. And not just on our own, but I mean, like, looking at from within ourselves, not just looking at, you know, government funding, not just looking at how, you know, we could have a more equal playing field, but what habits am I doing, do I have, that are stopping me from being able to live my best life financially? And that's why I say the most impactful thing that I've ever heard, one of the most impactful things I've ever heard, I've never even gotten, you know, financial coaching necessarily other than watching YouTube videos. But what you said, look at your bank statement, you will see a lot of answered prayers in there, was so real. Because immediately, this is crazy, I used to go to work, I would spend $2 a day. I knew exactly what I was going to get. And it never failed. Oatmeal, I was going to buy some, I'm old. I was going to buy me some oatmeal. I got an old eating habit. I was wasting money on oatmeal. I was buying $2 worth of oatmeal every day. And I would buy a drink every morning, without fail. I would do the same thing. It was $2.75 every day. And then after hearing that, I stopped for a second. I got home and I was like, okay, $2 a day, you know, almost $3. Just, you know, went ahead and made it, rounded up $3. $3 a day times 5 is 15, times 2, that's 30. And then I'm like, times 2 more, that's $60. Like, that's $60 a month that I'm paying. Like, that's a bill. Like, what bill is that for me? It's like a sewer bill.
Yeah.
Every single month. And that's light. That's only that meal. But I think a lot of people have these issues too. My wife got it worse than me.
Wifey.
Cause she ain't eating no oatmeal.
Starbucks, you say? Yeah. Oh yeah.
She used to. I think we're getting it in order. But man, just looking at that bill, it's like, no, this is not just, oh, you know, I'm eating breakfast. No, this is a lifestyle. This is a bill that you have every day. So find out, you know, we're spending like $200-$300 eating out every single month, and we're not even calculating that toward our outcome. You know, we're not even looking at that. We look at our phone bill, you know, the internet bill, blah blah blah. We're like, oh, we have this much money left over. We're like, no, you don't. You have this much. You're not counting all these other things. So. What do you think are some of maybe the misconceptions that people have, you know, about why they don't have the money that they need? So, for example, like you mentioned looking at the bank statement, looking at what you spend. From there, what else do you think people kind of fall victim to when it comes to saving money?
Y'all ready for this? It's going to be a good one. So, in simplest terms, paying yourself. Simplest terms, right? But let's dive a little deeper. And I'm going to ask you this question live right now. Right now in your life, what is your biggest asset? What would you think is your biggest asset?
I would probably say my house, but I think that is a controversial statement. But if we're talking about items, I would probably say my house has the potential to be the biggest asset that I have. But other than that, I think, I don't know, maybe my cameras can help me to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then the skills that I have, skill set.
So your answer is the answer to your question. You want to know why? You yourself are your biggest asset.
Explain that.
Because none of this stuff functions without you controlling it. Problem is, do you pay yourself like you're your biggest asset?
Nope.
That's the biggest misconception.
Hmm.
You think that your house is your biggest asset. And it's not, and most people do. And I'm not just targeting you, right?
That's all right. I feel stupid already.
No,
It's
no,
good.
no,
It's
no.
all right.
Don't. Because this is a condition.
Mm-hmm.
This is a condition that needs to be broken, right? Because literally, I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of people who are just super set on buying a house. Like the American dream is lived when you buy a house. Don't get me wrong, buying a house is a beautiful thing, right? But if we're talking about the misconception of money, most people go into buying a house broke. So you're house broke, right? You can't even afford to be in a house. And this is another thing that's been thrown around from a social media perspective. And this is something that I kind of gravitated to before I bought my house. You gonna pay just as much in your mortgage as you do in rent, right? But what they don't tell you is when you get a mortgage, everything is on you. So guess what you got to pay for? If the garage go out, you can't call.
My garage just went out.
You can't call the hotline for the apartment complex, right? You got to fix it. You got to find a contractor.
Yeah.
If the AC went out, literally, I bought my house maybe 6 months inside of us having that house. Entire AC unit went out.
Dang.
Was not prepared for it. $7,500. Guess what I didn't have? $7,500. Guess what I had to do? Take out a loan. So now I'm increasing my debt
Yeah.
because I never considered paying myself first.
That's good. How do you do that though? Like,
I'm glad you asked. Because you honestly could have had this podcast by yourself. Watch
hold on,
this.
I think one of my cameras
I love
just
it.
stopped. Hold on.
I love it. We getting work in. We are getting work. How do you do that? How do you pay yourself first? Is the question.
That's great. Keep going.
You answered it when we first started the podcast. Your wife's grandfather said what specifically?
Spend some.
Uh-uh.
Huh? What? Save some?
There you go.
Yeah, save first.
Save some.
Mm-hmm.
Spend some. Give some.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. We're conditioned to spend first. We don't give. And we don't save because we've spent it all and we're trying to save then because we're operating from a place of survival, right? So at the end of the month, we feel like we don't have enough money.
Y'all listening? Everybody listening?
Come on. At the end of the month, we feel like we don't have enough money. But what did we just talk about? If you check your bank statement, and this is something that nobody really teaches in the financial industry, right? They just want you to make more money, buy their product, different stuff like that, which is, can be beneficial to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, if you do not fix your relationship with money, you're going to fall victim to the exact same thing, maybe even on a worse level, right? And yes, making more money can be a good problem, but I've spoken to 6-figure, 7-figure people that's living paycheck to paycheck because they hadn't figured out their relationship with money, right? So if you adapt the mentality of paying yourself first, knowing that you are your biggest asset, then you spend, right? Take care of your necessities, everything that you need to take care of. And then what's left over from that is how you enjoy life, right? Or you figure out whatever it is that you need to be making to continue to enjoy life.
That's good. And I think my wife I think she's much more financially sound than myself. Just because she come from a 2-parent household. Not to say that's the end all be all, but
it's beneficial.
Definitely, it is beneficial. It has a lot of perks, especially as it pertains to just financial stability. And she had a chance to really see how money worked early. I didn't necessarily get a chance to see it because I come from a totally different dynamic. But one of the things that I learned from her was, and her uncle actually, Uncle Mundy. That's my guy.
Shout out to Mundy.
He's
Uncle Mundy.
He knows a lot. But he mentioned, like, when you have a bill, and let's say that bill is done, like a tuition, if it's like a tuition, you got a monthly tuition that you pay every year, every month for college, whatever. Once that bill is done, don't just tell yourself, oh, it's done, I can now spend that money. It's like, no.
So smart, man.
Take that. Yes, and you could tell by how he works, man. He said, take that money and keep paying it, but now you pay yourself, and I think that falls in line kind of with what you're saying. It's just, because now I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, my camera is an asset, but if I don't use it, it's not an asset for me, and it's really me who's operating all these things that is the asset.
Yeah.
So I need to pay myself. I'm an employee.
And you also pay the mortgage. So if you don't go to work,
yeah, it's not.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you take the math that I just talked about, right? Take somebody who makes $50,000 a year. If you take somebody that makes $50,000 a year and you give them a 10-year stretch, they've touched $500,000.
Man,
it's probably worth more than your house.
Mm-hmm. And not even just that. It's like, because I was trying to see where you were going to go earlier when you were talking about, over that 10-year span, you could have been invested into Nike. But there are a lot of other things like mutual funds, ETFs, things that allow you to continue to build money. It's slow.
Yeah.
But it lets your money work for you.
Yeah.
And that is something that concept was completely foreign to me.
Yeah.
Again, and I think to a lot of my family members, and understanding how money is supposed to, or not that it's supposed to, but it has that ability to make you money.
No, it is supposed to.
Oh, it's supposed to?
Absolutely. No, it is.
Okay.
It is absolutely supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
It's called currency for a reason. It's supposed to flow. So it's supposed to be making you money. As you make it, in order for you to continue the currency to flow, you must put it to work. And guess what? Money ain't racist.
Right. What do you mean?
Money doesn't see color. Money don't see discrimination. Once you get it, you now have the power to put it in position to make you more money. And it don't sleep. It don't get tired.
Yeah, you saying a lot, dog.
It don't.
You say
like
a lot.
For real.
It does.
Money's not racist. It doesn't have a problem with black people or white people. Right? It does not get tired. You ain't got to check on it to see if it's sleep or if it worked 8 hours. Guess what? Money worked 24 hours, 7 days a week.
That's tough. So, with your financial coaching, and I'm not going to hold you too much longer, man. But with your financial coaching, if you can share, what issues do you find, are likely to come up in some of the conversations that you've had with people? Is it always just, they didn't have enough money, or is it, I have a lot of money and I don't know how to spend it right, or what kind of advice do you find yourself like giving to different people?
I would say it's pretty balanced. I would say this too, the particular group of people that needs the most help is the middle class of America. And nobody's like overly excited to help middle class, right? Because the middle class is right in that spot where, you make enough money to not just be in poverty, but you don't make enough money to, really do some of the things that you want to do. But you also, for the middle class, you also have enough money to put your money to work in order for you to get to a position that you want to get to, right? But the problem is that there's just not a lot of institutions or people that are helping from that aspect, right? But what I see a lot is probably both, where you have people who make money, they just don't have any guidance, don't know what to do with it. And then you have the people who feel as though they don't make enough money. And in some cases, a person may not make enough money, but there are things that can be adjusted for that. But that's what I normally see. For people, it's both. People don't have enough money or feel as though they may not have enough money. So from that point, again, one of the biggest things that we teach is to, hey, go look at your bank statement first and foremost, right? Because once you understand what you bring in and what's going out, there's some things that you can adjust So therefore, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, because you may make the money that you need to make. You just been kind of spending it everywhere else. And then for the person who makes enough money, it's just a matter of giving them a plan and a direction.
Mm-hmm. And I feel that, man, because I know that a lot of times the people that I've been around have tried to, people I was around in the past, I ain't throwing no shade on nobody recent. You ain't with me now, you ain't with me. That's just, but I think it was a lifestyle choice. You know, it's like, you know, when I was a teacher, the teachers that I would work with who would complain the most about how much teachers were making, it was more so a lifestyle issue. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you want to be able to go on trips every month. You want to be able to, you know, finance a new car, you know, whatever. But it's like you're trying to live a lifestyle that's not within your, or at least how I viewed it. You know, I'm like, that's kind of not in your means. You know, it's like you're trying to live in a way that's beyond how your money is being stretched. And also, you know, some of the habits, you come in with a Starbucks coffee every day, and then, brother,
that's it, bro.
Start one coffee. I ain't throwing no shade on Starbucks.
I think that's something that needs to be talked about a lot more, right? Is because first of all, we don't live below our means. Because if we go back to the conversation that we had before, was that we're trying to prove ourselves worthy by getting all this other stuff, right? So it extends us outside of what we actually make. But even if people just took the time to live below their means, and I know in some situations where, like, depending on the income that you make, living below your means is like putting you in a crappy situation. And I get it. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. But also, if you look at the money that comes in and what's going out, you will quickly realize, like, I don't have to be in the situation that I'm in if I just delay a little bit of the gratitude that I feel right now. Because my wife said this, and this is a bar. This really, like, shook my soul when she said this. And I was kind of surprised that she said it. But she said, you're either going to sacrifice who you are right now to become the person that you're supposed to be, or you're going to sacrifice the person that you're supposed to be to continue to be who you are right now.
We're going to go ahead and end it right there. Wow.
A lot of stuff can be fixed with and it may not be simple for a lot of people, but delaying gratification on top of reviewing what your finances is doing in your relationship with money can put people light years ahead.
Dang. I was going to ask you for one tip before we close, just to throw out, but I think that's the one right there, man, because delayed gratification. That term, we got to keep. I used to, dang, I'm running out of time. That was one of the things I tried to teach my son early, because he was just super impatient.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you just delay that feeling that you're trying to get right now just for a little bit longer, you'll find that what you get in the long run is so much
far better,
more worthwhile. But I think that is a bar. You know, I don't even use that word like that, but that's definitely a bar.
Nah, facts, man. That was so good, man.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate you guys listening in.
Yeah.
I'm here with Pat Lockhart, and you know, he's our financial guy for today. And I'm telling you, he's giving us advice that is amazing. You got socials? What you got?
Yeah, so I am _ Mr. Lockhart is Instagram, Pat Lockhart Facebook. That's all I do, man. I'm not, like I said before, I think off air, I'm not a social media influencer, so you're not gonna see like a bunch of financial stuff on my. I like to get directly to the people. You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of things can be misconstrued, and you know, not understood completely when it comes from social media. So I like to get to the people, man. Boots on the ground.
Right. Hey. I only say that because, man, I like following people who I admire, and I like to just learn a little bit more about their lifestyle and what they're doing so that I can try to adapt some of those techniques. But I know there's people out there who kind of feel the same. You know, that's the only reason I say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we really appreciate you being on.
Nah, man, thank you, bro.
I'm Miles, and we are signing off of the Regular People Podcast. Thank you guys for listening in. Stay tuned for the next episode. Later.